Hey everyone, ready for another deep dive? Today we're heading over to Guyana, and this story is pretty wild. It seems the government is giving out cash bonuses.
Cash bonuses.
Yeah, to every adult citizen.
Interesting.
Even if they live abroad, even expats.
Wow, talk about spreading the wealth around.
Exactly. We found this article from Newsroom Guyana. It was published on October 24th of this year.
2024.
Right, 2024. And it looks like we're not talking about just a one-time thing.
Oh.
They're also giving public servants a raise and teachers a multi-year deal.
It sounds like Guyana's doing pretty well financially, wouldn't you say?
Definitely seems like it. So let's try to break this all down. We'll start with this cash grant.
Okay, so the article says $100,000.
That's Guyanese dollars, though.
Right, which comes out to about 480 USD.
Not an insignificant amount at all. And remember, every adult Guyanese gets this.
It's pretty remarkable, isn't it? Think about all the logistics involved there.
I can't even imagine. Distributing that much money to so many people all over the world.
Exactly. It's a huge undertaking.
The article did mention they're planning to roll this out over 5 months.
5 months.
Yeah. And they're even launching a new app to help distribute the money.
I guess that makes sense. Technology could help with efficiency and transparency there, right?
Exactly. But wait, there's more. On top of this bonus, public servants are also getting retroactive salary increases.
Retroactive, you say?
Yep. So a 6.5% increase, but applied to their salaries from last year.
Ah, so they'll get a lump sum payment for those past months.
Yeah.
That's quite a double bonus. And who all's included in this?
Let's see. Teachers, pensioners, basically a whole bunch of government employees.
Wow. And hold on, you mentioned something about teachers getting even more.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. There's a completely separate multi-year deal just for teachers.
A separate deal. Interesting.
A negotiated agreement that includes a 10% salary increase for 2024.
Okay.
Then an 8% bump in 2025, and then another 9% in 2026.
So basically guaranteeing raises for the next 3 years. Seems like they're trying to attract and keep good teachers.
It does, doesn't it? That's pretty crucial for any country that wants to do well in the long run.
Couldn't agree more. But I wonder, what's behind all this sudden generosity?
Well, it's no secret that Guyana has struck oil, and production has been ramping up quickly over the past few years.
Oh, so this could be where all this newfound wealth's coming from.
Seems very likely. But it does make you wonder.
Wonder what?
Well, we've seen this before. A country discovers a valuable resource, starts making a ton of money, but that doesn't always translate into prosperity for everybody.
That's the classic resource curse, right?
Exactly. We've seen countries struggle to manage this kind of windfall. Corruption, instability, sometimes even more inequality.
It's a good point. Just finding oil doesn't guarantee success. So the question is, what's Guyana doing differently? What makes us think they're thinking about the long term? Well, it's a good sign that they aren't just handing out one-time bonuses.
Right. It's not just a quick handout and done.
These multi-year deals, especially that one for teachers, really seem to show a commitment to investing in, people, future generations.
It's like they're trying to create a good foundation.
Yeah.
So that growth can be sustained, not just a quick burst that fades away.
Yeah, no quick sugar rush here. But even with good intentions, they still have to manage all this new wealth properly. What do you think are some potential pitfalls Guyana should watch out for?
That's a great question. And I think a big one has to be diversification.
Diversification.
Their economy right now, it's really tied to oil, right?
Yeah, and oil prices, those can go up and down. It's a global market, very volatile. If demand drops or prices tank, Guyana's economy could really take a hit.
Putting all their eggs in one basket is risky.
Yeah.
So what could diversifying actually look like for them? I mean, in practical terms.
Well, they'd need to invest strategically in other sectors that have growth potential. Think about it. Guyana has amazing biodiversity.
True. I've heard their rainforests are incredible.
They could become a real hotspot for ecotourism, attract visitors who, really care about the environment.
Interesting.
And they could also look at modernizing their agricultural sector, maybe even invest in some agricultural tech.
What do you think that would accomplish?
It could boost food security, A&D, open up export opportunities. So 2 birds with 1 stone, potentially.
Those are some pretty neat ideas. But let's go back for a second to the immediate impact of these financial decisions. Pumping so much cash into the economy, even if it's well-intentioned, it could backfire, couldn't it?
Oh, absolutely. When spending power suddenly surges like that, you run the risk of inflation.
Meaning prices for just about everything go up.
Exactly. And then that cash bonus doesn't go nearly as far. People lose purchasing power. It's a tough balancing act for the government. Stimulate the economy, but don't let inflation get out of control.
Like stepping on the gas, but trying not to spin out.
A great analogy, it requires a very careful touch. And even if they do keep inflation in check, there's still that question of sustainability.
Right, can they keep this level of spending up long term? What happens if, or when, really, the oil boom fades?
It's crucial that they avoid creating a dependence on these bonuses and raises. If people start expecting this level of income, adjust their lifestyles, and then the oil money dries up.
That could be a real problem down the line.
Big time. Managing expectations is going to be key. And we also have to consider the impact on government finances.
Right. These cash grants, retroactive salary increases, multi-year deals, that all adds up to a huge commitment, even with all that oil revenue.
Absolutely. They need to make sure the spending spree doesn't mean cutting back on other important things.
Like what?
Investments in things like infrastructure, healthcare, social programs, those can't fall by the wayside.
It's all connected, isn't it?
It really is. And let's not forget about the potential ripple effects on other industries.
What do you mean by that?
Well, if public sector salaries are going up, it could put pressure on private sector wages too.
So companies would have to offer more money to compete for workers.
Exactly. And then what happens? Maybe prices for consumers go up, or maybe some industries even face labor shortages.
It's a chain reaction.
Yeah.
One decision potentially impacting so many other parts of the economy. It's exciting to see Guyana doing so well, but it sounds like there are definitely some downsides and challenges they need to handle carefully.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And it's not just economics, right? There are social and political implications to think about, too.
Like what, for example?
Will this newfound wealth actually be shared fairly? Will it benefit everyone in Guyana, or will it just make existing inequalities worse?
It's almost like more money, more problems.
In some ways, yeah. And will it help strengthen democratic institutions, or could it lead to more corruption?
So many questions.
Yeah.
It feels like Guyana is at a turning point full of both opportunities and potential problems. It makes you think, what are our listeners supposed to take away from all of this? Why should someone who's not even living in Guyana care about any of this?
It's a great example of how complex economic development really is. We hear about countries striking it rich with natural resources all the time, but it's rarely that straightforward.
Yeah, there's always more to the story.
Managing this wealth in a responsible and sustainable way, it takes careful planning, smart decisions, and most importantly, a long-term vision.
It's a good reminder that economic choices aren't just about numbers on a spreadsheet. They impact people's lives, their jobs, and the future of an entire country.
Couldn't agree more. And I think there's another important takeaway here. Guyana's situation shows us how interconnected the global economy really is.
What happens in one place can really have a ripple effect around the world.
Exactly. The choices that Guyana makes today about its oil wealth, its environmental policies, its whole approach to economic development, those could have major implications down the road.
For global markets, maybe even climate change, migration patterns, who knows?
It's a big picture view. So zooming back in on Guyana, I'm curious, what concrete steps do you think they could take to really make sure this oil wealth benefits everyone? To avoid those pitfalls we talked about and create a successful, sustainable future.
It's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And I'm sure there's no easy answer, no magic formula.
Definitely not. But we can look at what's worked and what hasn't in other countries with similar situations.
See if there are any lessons to be learned.
Right. And one key ingredient seems to be transparency and accountability, in the government.
So it's about making sure those oil revenues are being used responsibly.
Exactly. With clear oversight, public input, the whole 9 yards, that can help prevent corruption and make sure the money's being spent on projects that actually benefit everyone, not just a small elite group.
It's not enough to just have the money. You need the right systems in place to manage it well, ethically.
Couldn't agree more. And another crucial piece is investing in people, education, that human capital.
We already saw that Guyana is taking steps in that direction with the deal for teachers.
Right, but they can't stop there. They need to provide high-quality education and training for everyone. That's how you equip citizens with the skills and knowledge to participate in this new economy.
And adapt as the job market changes.
Exactly. It's about empowerment, giving people the tools to be active participants in their country's development, not just sitting back and hoping the oil wealth trickles down.
Makes sense. What about diversifying the economy? We touched on that earlier. Any thoughts on how they can actually make that happen?
It takes strategic planning, for sure,
Yeah.
and targeted investment.
So identifying the right sectors with growth potential is the first step.
Yeah. We talked about ecotourism, modernizing agriculture. Those are good starting points, but they also need to make it easy to do business there.
Attract investment.
Right. Policies that encourage entrepreneurship, innovation, and don't forget about infrastructure. That's huge.
Transportation, communication networks, reliable energy, those are all important.
Absolutely. Makes it much easier for businesses to thrive and for those investments to flow. And it's really a multifaceted effort.
So many moving pieces, and I imagine this all takes time, right? It's not like flipping a switch.
Definitely not. Building a sustainable and equitable future, that's a long game. It takes patience, commitment, and a willingness to adapt as you go.
There will be bumps in the road, no doubt.
Of course. But if they learn from the mistakes others have made, prioritize transparency, and keep the well-being of all their citizens front and center, well, Guyana has a real shot at creating something special.
A bright future. It's definitely a story worth following. Now, for our listeners who've been glued to their seats through this whole deep dive into Guyana's situation, what can they do if they want to learn more, maybe even get involved?
Well, there are tons of resources out there, online, through different organizations.
Like, where should they start looking?
Check out reputable news sources, research institutions, NGOs. They often publish reports and analyses, really in-depth stuff.
Great starting points.
And if you want to go beyond just reading about it, there are ways to get directly involved. You can support organizations working on the ground in Guyana, promoting sustainable development, social justice, things like that.
So take that spark of curiosity and turn it into action.
Exactly, because understanding these complex global issues, well, that's the first step towards building a more equitable and sustainable world for everyone.
Well said. And as we wrap up our deep dive for today, any final thoughts you want to leave our listeners with?
Guyana's story, it's just one example of the challenges and opportunities that countries all around the world are facing. Economic development, resource management, building a better future, these are big, universal themes.
What can we do about it?
Engage with these issues, ask tough questions, seek out different perspectives. It all helps. The more informed and engaged we are as global citizens, the better.
So keep exploring, keep learning, keep diving deep. Who knows what fascinating discoveries await us on our next adventure?